Hi guys, Lever here from Bright Young Brains. So in this video, I am basically going to lay out, a way that you can handle a timetable that somewhat looks overwhelming. And I'm gonna mention 5 tips on how you can do that. So let us get into the first one. The first one I wrote here: prioritize the difficult subjects. So this is one thing that's like a bit blunt, but then it's also like one of those things that is not like properly acknowledged. Not all subjects are the same. You should not spend the same amount of time on all subjects. Everybody knows that. However, in practice, I mean that there is like a huge difference in the number of times that you want to be studying a certain subject and studying another subject. For example, let me give you what I would do. True story. For math, right? Obviously, if let's say in a week, I know that there is math on like Thursday and then there is English on like Wednesday. I kid you not. That entire week, I was practically doing math. On Tuesday, the day before the Wednesday, I'll maybe spend about an hour or two on English, trying to just get an idea of like what it is that I may need in the test the following day. But then the bulk of the time I was doing math. You see, even though math was like after the English and English was like first. To be honest, for subjects like Afrikaans and English, LO, I think the amount of time I spent on those subjects before a test was roughly about a day or two, nothing more than that. And then the bulk of the time I was spending it on things like mathematics, physical sciences, and IT, which were my three big subjects, right? So in terms of you like handling a timetable that is like super packed, the first thing you want to have in mind before we get into other ways on how you can deal with the timetable is from the get-go, know that your different subjects, they are at totally different levels. For things like the big ones, you could even spend like 4 days on those, and then for the small ones, a day or two is actually enough. Because you have to remember, this is more like a psychological game. Your brain knows which subjects matter the most. Your brain knows which subjects sort of like boost your confidence and all that shandies. And we all know that as long as like the big subjects are like going well, the small ones sort of like have this funny thing where they just play along. So that's one big thing I can mention there in terms of the first tip that I gave. The second one I wrote here: finish all outstanding assignments as soon as possible. So this is what I mean. Like how most of the time when you're given an assignment, you have like 2 weeks to hand it in, or 3, whichever way. The big idea is never leave assignments lingering. Never. I promise you, the worst thing you can do for yourself is, and you've been doing this probably, so you kind of know it doesn't work. You get an assignment, you think that maybe 2 days or 3 days before it's due, you can just start and finish. But then 2 days or 3 days before it's due, you start and you're like, snap, this assignment is actually deep. There's like research, there's like this, there's like that. And the next thing you know, you end up like not getting it done, or you do get it done in a rush, but then at the expense of a bunch of other stuff. Maybe during those 3-4 days that you thought you were gonna finish your assignment, maybe in those days there's like a test coming up, there's like a class test coming up, or an exam coming up, whichever way, right? And now you're trying to like juggle those two things together: the assignment, the test. They tell you that the test is like 10% of your term mark, the assignment is like 25% or 15 or 5 or whatever, and now you're trying to weigh which one is like worth your time. You really don't want to do that to yourself. The best thing you can do for yourself is, as soon as you get an assignment, I kid you not, that day or the day after, start. You see, because at least bit by bit, in about 3-4 days or even 5 days, you will be done with that assignment if you can just do a little bit every day. The main idea behind you doing a little bit every day is so that you can almost play that mind game with yourself to say that, okay, this assignment, soon enough, it's something that I won't have to worry about. Next point: pretend your life is nothing but school temporarily. Well, so this one is actually quite important. When you're going to be looking at your exam timetable, right, and let's say it's like a 3-week span, and it's just exam after exam, which is how it always has been and how it is right now. Low-key, that's how it's gonna be for a while. So you already know that your timetable is like a bunch of exams. There's like 2 papers for math, 2 papers for like physics, 2 papers for things like maybe IT if it's your third subject. It was my third subject. There's 3 papers for English, 3 papers for Afrikaans or whatever your second language is, and there's a paper for LO. So it's a bunch of papers. It's a lot. It's a lot of papers, minimum about 14 papers that you're gonna have to write. So you don't need to fool yourself to think that there's ever a time where your timetable is gonna be all spread out and whatever. It's really not. If it's spread out, maybe there's like a 2-day gap, a day gap. Now that's normal. Now the best way to try and know that your timetable is somewhat reasonable or manageable is to pretend that a month or 2, during that exam period, pretend that your life is absolutely nothing but school. And you see, I'm using the word pretend carefully here because most people will tell you, oh bro, you must you must have a balanced life, blah blah blah. Yeah, you should, but then there are portions in your life where you have to like zero in on one thing and muffle out everything. Pretend you have no life, basically. I'm not gonna say that in like a bad way to say you should be depressed and sad and it's gonna be like all dark and gloomy, just books. No. I mean, you just need to get in the zone. Your brain needs to know that, okay, for the next month or 2, my life is practically them books. Hashtag mathematics, if you do math. And let me just plug this study guide while I'm at it. So anyways, this is the study guide that we recommend, right? And the big idea with this study guide is it basically goes through grade 11, grade 10, and then obviously the grade 12 work that you have to learn this year. So obviously, if you can pretend that your life is nothing but school, this is gonna give you the time for you to like properly go through things like your study guides. Because things like study guides, these are not things that are properly like read out. People usually go to them for like 2 minutes when there's this one question that's difficult. No. Your study guide is always there and you should always use it. The one thing that I mentioned on point number 4 is don't make studying an event. Studying should be continuous. I'll repeat, don't make studying an event. Studying is something continuous. Like how your parents literally throughout the whole year, even weekends, holidays, they are always trying to make sure you're always studying. Now, the reason for that is studying is one of those things where you don't want to think to yourself that, okay, during the term, it's chilled vibes. And then, when it's not time for tests and exams, that's when you should like study. Nope. Studying is a continuous exercise. Now, the one thing that I mentioned here is you should always be up to date with your schoolwork. That's like a blunt statement that everyone knows. But then it's almost like when the year starts, everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to be up to date with the school, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I said blah, blah, blah. Snap. Everyone is like, I'm going to be up to date with school. And then when school starts, the first week is chill, the second week is okay, third week, it's floppy. Now, you don't want to put yourself in that situation, see. So the one way, right, that you can always make sure that you're studying consistently is be conscious of like the time that you spend on your schoolwork. What I mean is things like homework and assignments, right? Those are supposed to be the things that keep you in the zone. Those are the things that somewhat help you to be studying consistently. Because the issue is with assignments and homework, right? Most people just think of them as, things they just need to do for the sake of doing it so that they don't like get demerits or whatever. No, that's not what assignments and homework is there for. Assignments and homework, they're basically there to keep you in the zone. Meaning that when you get assignments and work that you need to be doing during the term, that kind of work, properly go through it. In the sense that if you don't understand something or whatever, don't just make it a thing where you like copy from someone so that you like get a good mark for your assignment. That's the worst thing you can do for yourself. Because you could be going through the term, you're doing whatever. This person is giving you answers or whatever, and your mark is looking okay. Come to the test, you want to study and you know nothing. You see, you have to remember when a test is like set up or when an exam is like set, the assumption is that you have been working on the work and you have been learning the work and you understand it well enough for it to now be tested. Now, that's how you're going to make sure. The only way you're going to make sure that when that exam date comes, although that exam time period comes, the only way you're going to make sure that you are somewhat up for it is to be continuously studying. The days you don't have homework, the days you don't have assignments, the days your timetable or your schedule looks chilled, trust me, Those are the days where you want to make sure that are you really on par with the work that you're working on. You see. Tip number 5. Are you ready? Okay, so I mentioned here, this is actually something very important, right? Take all advice with a grain of salt. So what I mean by this is you need to try stuff out. This is the reason why you have June exams, prelims, and finals. Now, if no one has told you, let me try and make it as clear as possible for you. June exams, prelims, and finals, I kid you not, it's almost like the same thing 3 times. Like legit. Obviously, maybe during June exams, there may be a topic or two that you may not have touched, like maybe the grade 12 statistics or the grade 12 probability or something small. But the rest, you've done it and it's set. It's done, you know. When prelims come and when final exams come, it's almost like they could swap the 2 exams and there wouldn't be any difference there because the syllabus is the same anyways. You know exactly what's in your syllabus and it's all going to be assessed in those 3 exam settings, you see. So even if you haven't like worked on probability and financial maths or statistics in the year so far, chances that you're going to get it in your June exams but at grade 11 level, they are there, you know, depending on who's setting up your paper. If it's like from the department or whatever, trust me, those topics are going to be there. So this is why you also want to be certain of what your scope looks like. So me saying that you want to take all advice with a grain of salt, right? What I'm trying to say is, remember, a timetable is something that obviously everyone has a different one depending on, you know, the subjects that you have, and also depending on how well you understand certain subjects and let's say your study methods that work. What I'm trying to say is don't abandon the things that you know work for you. Now, when something works for you, it somewhat obviously needs to be producing good results, but it also needs to be not too much at a scale where it's too derailed, where maybe you're getting this really good marks for this one subject and then the rest is like 40s and 30s and 50s. That's not a good balance, because at the end of the day, that like drops your average and psychologically you don't feel good about it because it's just this one distinction on your report. The rest, it's like level 3 or 2 and it's like, it's not nice. So depending on what you're gonna do, if you have June exams coming up or prelims or finals, well, obviously, say you have June exams coming up, what you want to do is always be testing stuff, you know, and the best and the times where you want to be testing which methods work and, you know, how long you should, you know, prepare for something. Do this, you know, when you have tests during the term, and like now when you have like things like June exams coming up or whatever, you want to test out methods, you know. So you want to test out things like, okay, what's going to happen if maybe I try and do 2 subjects in a day, or if I try to just do 1 subject in a day, or what's going to happen if I try to time myself and just do like 2 hours here and then 2 hours on this one and then 2 hours on the other one. What's going to happen if maybe I try to study with a friend? What's going to happen if I maybe enroll onto like the online courses, hashtag Bright Young Brains. So shameless plug for mathematics, obviously I created like online courses, like math online courses that cover like the entire syllabus. And on the online courses, which is like linked in the description, the one thing that you will note is that it's the entire syllabus. That's firstly. Secondly, all the courses, right? There's obviously like a different time slot allocated to each topic because not all topics are the same. You know, things like analytical geometry, that's like a slightly light topic in my opinion. That's why on the course, the total amount of time for that course is like about 4 hours. But then things like trigonometry, it's almost like double the time. But then the weight in your exam is almost the same. The reason for that is I was trying to show that with these 2 topics, if you can just master things like analytical geometry, it's really not going to take you a lot of time, but you're going to gain a lot of marks during that paper 2 exam, you see. So you're taking every piece of advice you hear about studying and whatever with a grain of salt. I'm trying to say don't compromise the things that already work for you, you see. The thing is really, I mean, doing things the day before, you may think it's working for you now, but trust me, those are the kinds of things that one day really come to like really punch you in the face. You know, that day or that week when you're really not in the mood and it's like all pressure on you, but you're used to, you know, being this person that's like, you know, the day before you just do your ninja stuff. There's going to be that one time when you cannot, you know, where it's just too much. So you don't want to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. The one thing you can definitely take away from all this is you want to keep in mind that you actually do have enough time. You thinking that you don't have enough time, trust me, 99% of the time that's an illusion, because you have to remember there are people out there that are like killing it and they have the same timetable that you have. You just need to take inventory of the things that you do with your time. Now I'll leave you with this one thing. The quote says, don't be disappointed because of the results you didn't get, because of the work you didn't put in. It's that plain simple. You don't want to find yourself being disappointed because of the results you're getting, because of the work you didn't put in. You want to be honest with yourself, because when you're going to be putting in work, right, it doesn't mean like a one-time thing, like maybe let's say 2 days where you're like really going to be on your books and you're like doing all you can, and then now you expect yourself to be getting these good marks for your exams. It doesn't work like that, you see. So that's why sometimes, I'm not gonna call anyone out or whatever, I'll get these messages like, dude, I've been trying, I've been doing this, and then you ask the person, how long have you been preparing? They'll tell you like 3 days, 4 days, or something like that. You don't want to make studying an event. Studying has to be something continuous. If you're doing it consistently and you're always there and you're not like always chilling, whatever, then the results, they just show for themselves, you see. Because sometimes we just want some things that are like quick and they should just happen like that, and it doesn't happen, you see. This is something that is continuous, especially if you know that they are like there's stuff from like previous grades that you were not like really comfortable with. Trust me, those things are always gonna come back to bite you. So that's why you always have to take the time to go back to them. Okay, anyways, that's that from my side. In terms of like the math study guide that I mentioned here, so you can just get that on the website. The link to that is in the description, and obviously the math online courses that I created, you can get that on the website as well. The link to all that is in the description. For now, that is that from my side. I will catch you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this.